Hi, I'm Narina. I paid $27,000 for a once-in-a-lifetime trip to Paris for my family. But when I checked my email, my seat was gone. Replaced. Given to my sister's boyfriend. No one called. No one explained. Instead, they posted selfies under the Eiffel Tower captioned "Family Forever." I wasn't even mentioned. They said I chose not to come. They said I needed space. But what do you do when your own mother lies about you? To protect the lie that benefited them all? And what happens when you stop staying quiet? You'd been saving for over a year. Not for something flashy like a new car, or something practical like a bathroom remodel, though both were long overdue. This was something else entirely. Something more intimate, a gesture, a thank you, a hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd see me not for what I do or what I fix, but for who I am, for how much I care. The idea had come to me late one night, after a long shift and a quiet dinner alone. I'd been scrolling through photos of Paris, the winding cobblestone streets, the way the lights kissed the Seine, the moody cafes tucked into alleyways. I remembered Dad saying once, back when we were all still living under one roof, that seeing the Eiffel Tower had been on his bucket list. Before I get too old to enjoy it, he'd joked. Except it wasn't really a joke. I remembered the way his eyes lingered on the photo in the travel magazine. So I decided he'd do it. He'd send us to Paris. I researched for months. Compared airlines, watched hotel reviews, timed the ticket prices down to the hour. I pulled late nights at work, took on weekend shifts, skipped holiday gifts, skipped holidays altogether. I said no to takeout, cut back on every small indulgence, and socked away every cent I could. When I finally clicked confirm on that last booking, the Seine dinner cruise hit me. $27,000, gone in a blink. But I didn't panic. I didn't hesitate. I felt proud. Like I'd built something beautiful for them. The morning I told them was a typical gray Seattle winter day. Cold, damp. It invited them over for brunch, nothing fancy, just waffles and fruit and coffee that had gone lukewarm by the time Valora finally showed up. She walked in like it was a fashion show, latte in hand, and her boyfriend Jorian trailing behind, like he belonged there. Momris was already seated next to me, smiling that serene, half-present smile she always wore, the one that never quite reached her eyes. "I have something to tell you," I said, hoping my voice sounded steadier than I felt. For once, they were quiet. "We're going to Paris," I said. "All of us. I booked everything." There was a beat of silence. Then Valora let out a breathless laugh and clapped her hands. "Oh my God, you're such a planner!" Maris tilted her head. "You booked all of it?" I nodded. "Yeah, flights, hotels, museum passes. I even got the shuttle from the airport." I glanced at Mom. "Dad always wanted to see the Eiffel Tower, right?" I figured it was time. She didn't get misty-eyed like I'd pictured. No smile of nostalgia, just a quick nod, and, "Which airline?" "I need extra legroom, you know my back." I'd already upgraded her seat. And Valora's. I hadn't upgraded mine. "It's all covered," I said quietly. "Not a single thank you." A week later, Valora texted me. "No greeting, no punctuation. Hey, Nair. So I was thinking Jorian's never been to Europe. What if he came too?" She followed up an hour later with, "He doesn't even have a passport yet, LOL. But it'd be good for him. We're serious now." I read it while waiting on a train platform, half frozen and half hoping I'd misread. Then came Mom's message. "It's family, honey. Don't be stiff." Stiff. That word stuck to me like a slap. I was the one who made this trip happen. I was the one who'd eaten rice and beans for weeks to save up. And I was being called stiff for not wanting to throw in an extra $4,000 for a man I barely knew. But I caved. Like I always did. I called the hotel, rearranged the rooms, changed reservations, redid the itinerary. I told myself I was being generous, flexible, good. But things shifted after that. I wasn't part of the group chat anymore. They started a new thread just for fun, Valora said, and I was fed updates like I was their assistant. They sent photos of cafes they wanted to try, links to restaurants in Montmartre, TikToks of hidden gems in Paris, Can you check which of these are near our hotel? Mom asked. Our hotel. I'd paid for it. But somewhere along the line, the trip had stopped being mine. I wasn't being invited anymore. I was being assigned. Then, one night, just before the trip, I was working late trying to tie up loose ends at the office so I could actually enjoy our time away. My head was pounding. My body felt like a frayed wire. I was about to close my laptop when the subject line popped up. Update on your reservation. It was from the airline. I didn't click it right away. I just stared at the screen. The cursor blinked. I blinked. And in that stillness, something cracked. I felt the cold settle, in not the winter cold, but a deeper one. The kind of cold that whispers the truth you've been avoiding. That this trip wasn't really a gift anymore. It was a transaction. And I was the forgotten line item in a receipt they didn't plan to keep. I opened the email during my lunch break, sitting in the break room where the vending machine buzzed like it had something to say. My sandwich sat untouched on the napkin in front of me, wilting as the minutes ticked by. I'd seen the subject line earlier that morning, update on your reservation, but hadn't dared open it. Something about it felt wrong, like it already knew it was carrying bad news and just needed me to confirm it. When I finally tapped the screen, the message loaded slowly, as if it too hesitated. Your booking has been canceled per account holder's request. Refund issued to original form of payment. I blinked. Read it again. Then a third time. Canceled? I hadn't canceled anything. I hadn't changed a single detail. My round-trip ticket to Paris, booked months ago through my frequent flyer account, should have been untouched, locked in, secured. That seat was supposed to be mine. Confused, I reopened the itinerary, fingers slightly trembling. The passenger list no longer had my name. It was just gone. Like I'd never booked the flight. Like I was never invited. I called the airline immediately. The hold music was aggressively cheerful ukulele plucks and chirpy voices about taking off to Joy. When the representative finally answered, I asked her, half hoping she'd say it was a mistake to verify the booking. She was polite, professional. There's no one by your name associated with this reservation, she said. But I do see a Jorian was added last week, upgraded to first class. Would you like me to transfer you to our loyalty team? I declined. I didn't need more explanations. I ended the call and sat there, staring at my phone like it had personally betrayed me. And maybe, in a way, it had. I opened my loyalty account, the one I'd used to book the tickets. Every point I'd hoarded from years of business trips, every perk from red-eye flights and layovers, they had all been used for a seat. But not for me. The upgraded seat was now in the name of Jorian M. My heart thudded in my chest like it was trying to outrun the truth. But I hadn't moved, not an inch. My body was still, but inside, I felt myself falling backward into something I couldn't name. I didn't call anyone, not Valora, not Maris, not even to ask why. Instead, I opened my camera roll and began screenshotting. Quietly, precisely, like a historian preserving evidence. Flight numbers, booking dates, the loyalty point deductions, passenger swap confirmation, everything. I saved it all in a new folder. Paris, not mine. That night, I didn't cook. I didn't turn on the lights. I lay on the couch, phone screen glowing in the darkness, like a cruel nightlight. I didn't cry. Not yet. Part of me still clung to hope. Maybe it was a clerical error. A duplicate reservation. Maybe he'd typed the wrong email address. But then Valora's voice played in my head. We're serious now. And Maris, brushing me off. Don't be stiff. The more I tried to make excuses, the more the truth rose like a tide. This wasn't an accident. This was a decision, a replacement, a reshuffling where I no longer fit. The next day, I opened Instagram. I don't know why. Maybe part of me wanted to see them acknowledge me. Maybe I was still hoping this was a misunderstanding. It wasn't. Valora had posted a boomerang, Jorian loading Marissa's designer suitcase into a rental trunk, all three dressed in matching sweats and oversized sunglasses like a coordinated ad campaign. The caption read, "The best family deserves the best trip." The next post was worse. A selfie of the three of them in front of the airport gate, all smiles. Maris had added heart emojis and asked followers to drop Paris Rex. They looked radiant, relaxed, as if nothing and no one had been cut out of the picture. Then came the stories. Maris sipping Ross in the lounge, Jorian joking in French, Valora filming a slow pan across the tarmac before turning the camera to herself. Sometimes you just have to get away, with the ones who matter most. I wasn't tagged. I wasn't thanked. I wasn't even there, not in the frame, not in the memory, not in the story. And it wasn't just the flight. It was everything. My role, my effort, my name. Erased. I closed the app, stared at the ceiling in silence. The fan spinning above like it, too, was trying to distract me from the truth. That night, I made 2 backups of my evidence, one to the cloud, one to a flash drive. Not because I had plans to use them, but because something shifted inside me. I realized, if I didn't document my presence in this family, my place, my effort, they'd erase me. Cleanly, without apology. Just like they'd erased that seat. Just like they'd replaced it. As I powered down my phone, I caught one last post from Valora. Family first, a photo of the 3 of them at the Eiffel Tower, arms linked. I wasn't in the picture. I wasn't even the photographer. The next morning, I sat alone at the kitchen table, the bitter taste of black coffee doing little to jolt me awake. It tasted like cardboard, burnt, stale, and indifferent, much like the silence that now wrapped itself around my life. Still, I drank it, because routine was easier than feeling. Out of habit or maybe self-sabotage, I opened Instagram again. First thing in the morning, Valora had posted a new carousel, 7 photos, 7 carefully curated snapshots from a trip I was supposed to be on. The first one stopped me cold. A smiling family selfie at Pike Place Market. Maris wore the red scarf I got her last Christmas, the one she swore made her feel cozy but powerful. Valora's caption read, "Wouldn't have been the same with anyone else." I swiped left, each image like a pin pushed deeper into a map I'd never been invited to. Next was a shot of Jorian loading their luggage into an Uber, Valora's manicured hand resting on his shoulder while she filmed, like it was part of some travel commercial. Then the Eiffel Tower, 3 separate angles. Daylight, twilight, sparkling at night. Maris posed beside a paper cone of crepes, her smile so big, it was as if nothing had ever been missing. Jorian did an exaggerated sniff of his wine at dinner, probably hamming it up for the camera. The final photo was under glowing string lights, all 3 of them toasting glasses of white wine, caught mid-laughter. Not a single trace of me. Not even a token mention. No wish you were here. No next time, Narina. Nothing. I didn't even exist in the comments. I didn't like it. I didn't comment. I didn't message. But I saved the post. Quietly. Without thinking. Just in case I ever needed to remind myself that it was real. That they really had gone without me. A few hours passed. Then a text buzzed through from a friend I hadn't heard from in months. "Thought you were going to Paris." "Saw Valora's story. You okay?" My stomach twisted. I jumped back onto Instagram and clicked through to Valora's story highlights. Sure enough, a new reel titled "Our Escape" had been added. My finger hovered before tapping it. The first few seconds showed Valora zipping up a suitcase in fast motion, a light filter giving it a dreamy glow. Then a cut to Maria's voice. Narina's always been so responsible. She needed a break. She chose not to come. Chose. It was a tiny word, but it hit like a truck. The kind of word that rewrites a story just enough to make the victim look like the one who opted out. The kind of word that makes your absence feel like your decision. They hadn't just taken my spot, they'd revised the narrative too. Cast me as some overly serious introvert who couldn't handle the fun. And it wasn't just a one-time oversight. It was coordinated, public, casual. I opened the family group chat, the one I was still in, anyway. The other one had gone radio silent ever since the trip started. I knew better than to think it was an accident. I messaged Mom directly. "Why did you say I chose not to come?" Three dots appeared, disappeared, then came back. Then finally, her reply. It just seemed easier than explaining the whole seating mix-up. Don't make a scene, honey. A scene. That's what they called me, asking for clarity. A moment later, Valora followed up, like they'd been talking behind the scenes. You're overreacting. You literally said you needed quiet. We respected that. Don't twist it. Twist it. As if it'd taken their omission and turned it into drama. As if being written out of the family story was something I'd made up. I stared at those messages, feeling the silence in my apartment swell. The kind of silence that doesn't comfort, it confines. Padded room silence. Gaslight silence. I didn't respond. Instead, I deleted the thread. If they weren't going to give me the truth, I'd keep my own. That night, I created a new folder in my Google Drive. I titled it Family Archive. It had 4 subfolders: screenshots, financial receipts, booking confirmations, text logs. I wasn't sure what I'd do with them. Not yet. But I needed a record. I needed proof that my version of events wasn't just emotional noise. That it happened. That I wasn't just too sensitive or reading into things like they always claimed. Because if I didn't hold on to my part of the story, they'd bury it. And maybe worse, I'd start to doubt it myself. Later that evening, after folding laundry with a mechanical precision I didn't even realize I had, I checked Instagram one last time. Another post from Valora. This time, the 3 of them were laughing in a cozy cafe in Montmartre. You could see a basil plant in the window behind them. A rustic baguette basket sat on the edge of the table. Their heads were tilted back in synchronized joy, like a stock image of the perfect sibling vacation. The caption read, "Just the way it was meant to be." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at the screen until my phone dimmed and locked on its own. Not because I was stunned, but because I finally understood. They hadn't just gone on without me. They preferred it that way. And if I hadn't started saving the receipts, I might have believed them too. A few mornings later, while scrolling through my phone during a slow hour at work, I saw a video reposted by someone we both knew. It was a clip from Valora's story. They were sitting outside a little cafe in Paris, Dad, in a tailored gray blazer I knew instantly. The cut, the buttons, the navy lining. I'd spent a weekend picking it out, custom fit and prepaid 2 months before the trip. The caption read, "From Valora and Jorian, a son and daughter with great taste." I didn't blink. I didn't react. I saved the video and the invoice I still had in my email. Then I dropped both into the folder I'd been building piece by piece. Paris, not mine. Later that afternoon, I checked my personal email. There was a refund notification from the florist ID used. Delivery refused by recipient. No explanation. And then, of course, Valora's story again. This time, a boomerang of Maris dropping a bouquet into a trash bin, filmed in slow motion, with some lo-fi song humming in the background. The caption, "Some people don't get boundaries." That one I sat with longer. There wasn't even an attempt to hide it. No plausible deniability, just bold dismissal. I remember leaning back in my chair, eyes locked on the ceiling tiles, and whispering to no one, "You really meant it." That night, I pulled out a shoebox of old photos. Ones where I wasn't cropped out. 4th of July barbecues, family game nights, birthdays where I did the baking and cleaning and still ended up holding the camera. It hit me harder than I wanted to admit. During a family road trip when I was 12, Valora had said to me, "It's not that you're not fun, you're just intense." Back then, I thought that was a compliment. I thought being the dependable one meant something. But maybe it had always meant, "We'll let you do the work, just stay off the stage." And I had. For years. I took care of things so they could enjoy them. But now they didn't just forget. They rewrote. It wasn't grief I felt. It wasn't even betrayal anymore. It was detachment. I printed the receipt for the blazer. I printed the refund notice for the flowers. I placed both into a manila envelope and wrote across it in black Sharpie. Proof I existed, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just filed it away like I was archiving someone else's life. Around 8 p.m., I made tea, sat by the window, and refreshed Valora's feed. Another post had gone up. A rooftop photo. String lights overhead. Jorian holding a wine glass mid-laugh. Maris reaching across the table. Valora, of course, at the center. The caption read, "This trip is everything, just the way it was meant to be." Again. That phrase again. Just the way it was meant to be. I stared at it, not with sadness, but with something colder, heavier. The realization that no matter what I did, no matter how much I gave, I would never be part of the image they were curating, because I was never meant to be in the frame. That night, I started drafting the email not to them, but to the bank. That email to the bank took less than 15 minutes to write. The decision behind it? Closer to 15 years? I attached the full breakdown flight confirmation, card charges, upgrade history. I listed every transaction related to the trip. The subject line was simple. Unauthorized usage of card immediate review requested. It wasn't revenge. It was accountability. That weekend, I got a message from a cousin I rarely hear from. Someone on the edge of the family map. He sent a short clip from a live stream replay. It was Maris at a dinner party, surrounded by wine and candles, leaning over to someone off camera. "Honestly," she said, laughing, "the trip felt lighter, less tense." Laughter followed. Someone else added, "Sometimes that's what you need, trim the drama." No one defended me. No one said, "She paid for it." No one said, "That's her daughter." I watched it twice, closed the clip, and then I reopened it just to save a copy. Monday morning, I stopped for coffee at a little corner shop I used to go to before work went remote. Mrs. Lang was there, my old neighbor. She looked startled when she saw me, like she'd seen a ghost. "Oh, Narina," she said, smiling nervously. "Your mom said you decided not to go on the trip. She told us you needed alone time, that big groups overwhelm you." I said, "Bless her heart. We all need space." I smiled, the polite kind. But inside, something final clicked into place. It wasn't just that they omitted me, they were actively reshaping me into someone else. Someone fragile. Someone they didn't have to feel bad for excluding. That night, I sat at my desk and logged into my financial dashboard. Every booking, every seat upgrade, every add-on was mine. Every dollar traced back to me. They didn't even use their own emails, just relied on me to handle logistics, like always. I opened a second tab and began the dispute process. Uploaded proof, signed the forms, noted the timeline. This wasn't vengeance. This was structure. Then I walked over to my filing cabinet and pulled out the lease agreement for the family home, the one where Maurice and Valora had been living for years. My name was still there. Co-owner. I had never removed it. That piece of paper hadn't mattered to me until now. The next morning, I sent an email to Valora and Maris. No accusations, no theatrics. Just facts. I've reviewed the charges used to fund the Paris trip. I've submitted formal disputes to my card issuer, attached our receipts showing the ticket originally booked in my name and the flight upgrades tied to my account. Additionally, I've reviewed the lease agreement on the house. If either of you have questions or wish to resolve this directly, I'm open to scheduling a discussion with a third party present. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just letting you know. If there's a next time, I won't stay quiet. Valora replied within 20 minutes. A thumbs up emoji. Maris never responded. But that was the moment something shifted. Not in them in me. No one called. No one apologized. No frantic messages. No fake concern. The silence used to feel like punishment. This time, it felt like air. I walked to the drawer where I'd placed the envelope. Proof I existed. I added a note on the flap with today's date, then slid it back into its slot and locked it. I wasn't hiding the truth. I was filing it. I had drawn the line. They thought I wouldn't cross it, but they were already standing on the wrong side. By Tuesday morning, I wasn't just filing disputes, I was reclaiming the narrative. Every bank form, every screenshot, every email confirmation that showed my name, replaced with Jorian's. I sent it all. I'd spent hours on the phone with fraud recovery, walking them through the timeline, forwarding documents, attaching side-by-side edits of booking logs, highlighted, time-stamped, irrefutable. The woman on the other end of the line paused for a second and said, "Looks like you did your homework." I smiled faintly. She couldn't see it, but the smile wasn't for her, it was for me. For the version of myself who used to ask for permission. That version was gone. Before noon, I changed every password to every shared account, no more freeloading on my streaming subscriptions, my data storage, or the house Wi-Fi I was still inexplicably paying for. It wasn't revenge. It was housekeeping, a long overdue reset. That evening, as they sipped French rose and posed for selfies under dim calf-style lights at Valoris-themed Paris night dinner, their Bluetooth speaker playing Charles Aznavour in the background, they received my email. Subject line: Notice of financial dispute. Unauthorized use of funds. The message wasn't long. It didn't need to be. I had attached receipts, dollar amounts, vendor names, date stamps. The body of the message was clean and calm. This communication serves as formal notice of unauthorized charges incurred on my behalf. All instances are listed in the attached spreadsheet and supported by original documentation. This is a legal matter. All correspondence moving forward will be logged. It wasn't angry. It was clinical. And that's what made it powerful. According to someone who was at the dinner, someone who knew better than to comment publicly, Maris read the email in full, slowly, and then placed her phone down with visible tension in her jaw. She turned to Valora and asked, "What did you two do?" Jorian, ever predictable, just kept chewing. Valora didn't answer right away. She poured herself another glass of wine, raised an eyebrow, and said something dismissive like, "She's just being dramatic." 3 days passed. Then a message lit up my screen from an old coworker, someone I hadn't spoken to in months. "Hey, just left the post-trip mixer. They showed a slideshow. Your planning docs were up there, but they credited Valora. Said she handled all the logistics. That didn't sit right." "Are you okay?" I didn't reply. Not immediately. Instead, I reopened the spreadsheet I knew better than my own resume. The formatting was mine. The tabs, the color coding, the notes about museum opening hours mine. The file name even included my initials. Valora hadn't even bothered to reformat it. I didn't call. I didn't confront her. I didn't start a text thread. I printed a letter. Cream-colored stationery. Real ink. A calm, firm tone. "You are hereby directed to cease and desist from the use, distribution, or misrepresentation of any intellectual property, documents, or materials created by me. Continued use will be documented for legal purposes. No threats, no theatrics, just truth with a stamp on the envelope and my signature at the bottom." That weekend, Maris called. Twice. No voicemail either time, just silence wrapped in hesitation. Valora, unsurprisingly, took to Instagram. A photo of her at a caf, captioned with sharp passive aggression. Some people can't stand not being the main character in the family story. Maybe try therapy instead of lawsuits. I didn't reply. I didn't even feel hurt. Just confirmed. I took a screenshot, saved it to a folder labeled Documented Emotional Manipulation. Sunday rolled in on cold rain. I returned home from a long walk just before the skies opened. I took my shoes off, hung up my coat, and lit a candle on the kitchen table. Not for comfort, for intention. I needed the ritual, a line between before and after. I checked my inbox. Empty. No group thread updates, no apology, no forwarded meme. Just the stillness that follows an earthquake. For once, I wasn't holding my breath. I wasn't bracing for the next wave. There was no need. I opened the window just a crack, enough for the wind to slip in. The rain tapped gently against the sill, slow and steady. I reached out and let a few drops kiss the back of my hand. The air smelled different, lighter. I realized something in that moment. I hadn't been pushed out. I had walked away. With my head up, the door locked behind me, and the key in my pocket. They thought silence would weaken me, but that's only because they've never heard the kind of silence I carry when I'm the one holding the match. And this time, I'm not afraid to strike it. By the following Monday, I had the locks changed. Not out of spite, but because I could. The house wasn't theirs. Legally, it had never been. They had lived there for 5 years without paying rent, utilities, or property tax. ID covered it all, quietly, consistently, and foolishly. I taped the notice to the front door. Lease revisions take effect in 7 days. Please plan accordingly. Underneath, I included a printed ledger detailing unpaid occupancy. 5 years, every dollar, signed with a neutral signature, me own name, typed in bold. That afternoon, Valora texted me. Valora, are you seriously evicting your own family? No greeting, no punctuation, no accountability. I didn't respond. The next day, they showed up unannounced. I was home, sitting on the couch folding laundry, when I heard the knock. It wasn't tentative. It was the kind that said, "We still think we control the story." I opened the door halfway. Maris stood there in her beige coat, arms folded. Valora was behind her, phone in hand, already recording. "This is petty," Maris said, stepping forward. "This isn't you." "No," I said, steady. "This is finally me." "You're humiliating us," Valora added. "Over what?" "Some receipts?" "You're making a fool of yourself." I didn't argue. I didn't escalate. I just nodded toward the mailbox by the porch. "Legal matters go there. This conversation's over." I closed the door before either of them could respond. That evening, I checked Instagram. Valora had posted a new story white text on a black background. "Sometimes the quiet ones are the cruelest. Watch your family fall apart and still sleep fine?" I didn't reply. I didn't flinch. Comments started rolling in. A few mutual friends unfollowed me. One even sent a thinking of you message that felt more like a probe than concern. I saved it all. Screenshots, timestamps, comments. Not because I wanted to use them, but because I'd learned to keep records. 2 days later, a certified envelope arrived at my office. Inside, a check. No amount written in words, just digits. A yellow sticky note attached, in Maris handwriting. "Maybe this will bring you peace." No signature, no apology. Just a dollar figure meant to sweep everything under the rug. I took the check, folded it once, and slid it into an envelope with a printed response. I asked for respect. You sent silence dressed as closure. I decline. I mailed it back the same day. That weekend, the voicemail came. I didn't pick up. I let it roll. Maris' voice was calm, but sharp like always. "Your father would be ashamed of how you're handling this. He always valued peace over pride." I played it twice. Then I deleted it. By Sunday night, I was at my desk again. A fresh document open. Title, Final Steps. It wasn't just about boundaries anymore. It was about finality. My finger hovered over the send button, not for a text. Not for an email. It was for the motion that would remove their names officially from the property title. They played victim to avoid being seen as what they were. But in the next 24 hours, the mask would fall for good. I filed the transfer documents on a Wednesday morning. No hesitation. No trembling hands. No last-minute second guesses. Just a quiet courthouse hallway that smelled faintly of floor wax and old paper. The overhead lights flickered like they hadn't been replaced in a decade, and brought my own pen, tucked into the lining of my coat, because I didn't want to borrow anything, not even ink, to sign the end of that chapter. 15 minutes. That's how long it took to sever a history built over 30 years. That afternoon, I was eating leftovers at my desk, nothing special, just soup and crackers, when a notification pinged on my phone. I almost didn't look, but something made me swipe it open. It was a reposted screenshot. Valora. Again. This time, she had chosen LinkedIn as her stage. She had captioned it with a flourish, orchestrated our international family retreat down to the minute so, grateful for the experience and the chance to lead. Underneath was an itinerary that looked eerily familiar. Too familiar. Color-coded tabs, departure times, flight numbers, notes on allergies and mobility needs, even the font. It was my spreadsheet one-eyed designed 3 years ago. She hadn't even bothered to change the headers. She had cropped my name out, like slicing history with a pair of digital scissors. But someone remembered. A former coworker reposted the screenshot with a cutting caption, "We all know who planned this." Shameful. That's all it took. The comments began rolling in. Quietly at first, then like a flood that wouldn't stop. One person wrote, "This isn't the first time she's passed off someone else's work as her own." Another added, "Beware of those who build your brand. Sometimes they're just harvesting pieces of yours." By nightfall, Valora had deleted the post, locked her profile, comments turned off. But the internet never forgets. People saved it, screenshotted it, forwarded it. Silence never looked so loud. Later that evening, a message arrived in my inbox private, unexpected. It was from someone I barely remembered. Jorian's ex. We'd only met once, maybe twice, during a company mixer. I don't even recall exchanging more than a hello. But her message? "I always saw how they treated you. You weren't invisible, just surrounded by people who needed you quiet." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I read it again, then bookmarked it, like a digital talisman. That was enough. Friday morning, I signed the final eviction documents. Everything was already in place. New lease, certified transfers, court approvals. All that was left was the final stamp. The courier delivered the envelope while Maris was in the middle of a Zoom call with her church group. The receptionist told me later. She looked completely blindsided. Eyes wide, voice shaking, but she kept smiling at the camera, pretending everything was fine. There's a particular kind of humiliation that doesn't scream. It simmers. Quietly, privately, my favorite kind. That same evening, I found a postcard in my mailbox. No stamp, no sender. But I recognized the handwriting immediately. Idris. The front was a photo of a quiet hill in Vermont, orange and red leaves burning like fire. On the back, just one sentence. "Some family isn't blood. It's who doesn't rewrite your story when you're not in the room." I pressed the card flat and slid it beneath the corner of my laptop. It felt right there. Not as a decoration, but as armor. On Sunday morning, I took one final walk past the house. I didn't linger. I didn't glance through the window or pause at the driveway. I kept my steps steady as I moved up to the porch. My coat was zipped. My hands were dry. In one of them, an envelope. Inside it, printed receipts, plane tickets, credit card invoices, copies of every planning email. Even the original spreadsheet, my spreadsheet. The one Valora had butchered to boost her lie. Taped to the top was a single note. "This is what it cost me." Valora was already standing on the porch when I arrived. Arms crossed, jaw tight. But for once, she didn't speak. And Maris? She stayed inside. I didn't say a word. Didn't offer a smirk or a goodbye. I simply placed the envelope at the door, turned, and walked away. Not quickly, not dramatically, just steadily. Because sometimes power doesn't come from slamming doors or shouting truths. Sometimes it comes from walking away without looking back. Because not everyone who loses access to you realizes they've lost a sanctuary until the silence finally echoes. The new apartment was small, but quiet in the way I hadn't realized I needed. A second-story loft tucked just above a florist shop in Capitol Hill. The windows faced east, which meant the sun greeted me first each morning without permission, without apology. I unpacked slowly. A desk by the window. A row of potted plants I finally had time to care for. A corkboard labeled "Mine" above the entry shelf. It wasn't a palace, but it was the first space I'd inhabited that felt free of negotiation. There were no footsteps down the hall but my own. No second-guessing over what I could say without someone twisting it back into guilt. The silence here was intentional, not imposed. Meanwhile, elsewhere, things shifted in the background like slow-moving clouds. Valora's influencer image cracked. Word had gotten out not because I said anything, but because people started paying attention. Someone dug into her past posts, noticed discrepancies in client credits, even caught her reusing language from a wellness campaign she didn't own. Jorian disappeared from her profile altogether. No farewell post. No life update. Just gone like he never existed. Typical. Maris stopped showing up at her church group. I heard through a friend of a friend that she muted herself in Zoom calls more often. Her camera started having issues. I didn't need to dig. I didn't need updates. The weight of their image had turned on them. And for once, I wasn't the one holding it up. They never apologized. And strangely, I didn't feel owed one anymore. One afternoon, I got a message from someone I hadn't expected. Valoris' former assistant. The note read, "You weren't crazy, you were just the first to say no." I pinned it. It wasn't healing, not exactly. But it was confirmation. Sometimes that's all you need to stop gaslighting yourself. A week later, another envelope showed up. No return address, no letter. Just a new check and a card inside. No hard feelings. Hope you're well. No name. But I recognized the handwriting. I scanned the check, then tore it in half. I kept the card for a moment longer. I wrote one sentence across the front. This was never about money. Then, I lit a match and watched it curl into ash in the sink. On Sunday, I walked to a bookstore a few blocks away. I found a thick, hardcover journal. Blank pages, no prompts. The kind that invites you to write what actually matters. I took it home, sat at my desk, and wrote on the first page in black ink. What I owe myself, I filled in small lines beneath. Said no without explaining. Didn't check her profile. Didn't wait for the apology. Chose quiet and didn't fear it. Later, while going through a storage box, I found an old photo. It was from a backyard birthday, maybe my 10th. Valora had her arms wrapped around me, eyes on the cake. Dad was in the back, raising his plastic cup in a blurry toast. I didn't rip the picture. I didn't frame it either. I filed it under a new folder I'd made that morning. History, not home. Some people lose you and never notice. Some notice, but too late. And some, like Melos everyone, and finally gain themselves.